Chapter 50. The greatest understanding that enables the limited mind to connect with the totality of universal existence is through mathematics. Energy exists within precise cycles that can be read as mathematical equations. In order for universal existence to continue, all the pieces of the puzzle must fit together. Since life expressing is not a static existence, that indicates that changes are going on within the totality of the puzzle on a continuing basis. Variations are constantly being recalculated to continue their inclusion within the whole, which is far greater than can be imagined by finite minds. Thus it is that catastrophic events cause chaos and recalculation down to intricate details, and these ripple outward, influencing the universal whole. The greater the catastrophe, the greater the chaos during the period of restoring unanimity. Knowing this, great focus is concentrated on areas to prevent such happenings if possible, or at least to lessen the causative factors. This is not always possible, for the free will factor of those intent on causing such episodes cannot be denied. If all the individuals within the area of disharmony are not in agreement with the disruptive focus, then there can be intervening action to counterbalance the intended disruptive action if those in disagreement specifically ask for help to offset the intended plans. Agreement with the disruptive plans does not need to be informed agreement. In other words, the plans need not be generally known or understood. Passive agreement through ignorance is still agreement. This is the reason that so much effort has been put forth by various individuals and organizations to alert and inform the people of this planet that there is indeed a subversive plan moving toward completion. This plan, if allowed to reach completion, will deny natural evolvement of life on this planet and will allow survival and enslavement of only chosen ideal candidates. Those who do become aware of and choose not to agree with these plans must then come together in agreement to focus on a plan of their own to create a different scenario for the populace and ask for what is called divine intervention. However, this cannot be asked of an unknowable God that may capriciously choose whether to answer or not, depending on his mood that day. Such a God does not exist. Pure potentiality exists with multiple levels of awareness within its expression, all the way down to third-dimensional awareness and even below that level. All these multiple levels of awareness combined may indeed be considered God. There are levels within this composite of awareness that are very great indeed. Consequently, certain levels of this God awareness can and do hear and answer prayers that are addressed to them correctly, either accidentally or through the understanding and application of the basic laws that all manifested awareness exists within. To ask is the first important step. To continue to ask never allows the process to move beyond the asking stage. First ask, assume the answer is on its way, and then continue to express appreciation that it is happening in its own perfect wisdom and timing. That wisdom and timing is greatly influenced by the one asking and how well that awareness is able to follow through with the two remaining steps after the initial asking. This is often called prayer. Nothing can happen until there is first asking. Then the next two steps, assuming it is happening, continued focus of intent, and expression of appreciation, allowance, controls the manifestation. It is that simple. A few additional details are helpful. Ask within a framework that allows what might be called divine intelligence or thought thinking to fill in the details. Doubt destroys results, trust ensures them. It seems that these simple rules cannot be repeated too often, for habits formed through misinformation are difficult to overcome. It would be wise to reread this message frequently to remember these essential steps. Divine intelligence encompasses the benevolent galactic brothers, sisters, and androgynous beings that have evolved beyond your level. It is true that there are those who live in harmony within the God energies that promote evolvement at all levels of potentiality expressing itself. This is the composite of all accumulated wisdom knowing itself and continuing its expansive experience. All awareness is a part of that magnificent pool of intelligence. It is also true that through free will, there are those that are experiencing in disharmony with expansive intent. It is important to understand that self-awareness can purposefully destroy itself by continuing its negative experience to the point of destruction, because the negative focus lessens, literally pinches off, the focusing energies of the soul. However, destruction by this method of weakening the connection to the soul is very difficult to do. Awareness can muck around in negative experiences for the learning that can be gained and then return to harmonious experience. Many of those that might be considered to have great wisdom and experience have pursued both paths. To have a body destroyed by those experiencing within what is considered negative experience does not destroy the self-awareness. In other words, unless deliberately chosen, there is no real death, just the need to digest the learning available from the victim experience, then acquire a new body to continue the next experiencing opportunity into wisdom and evolve within the field of potentiality. The availability of bodies is sometimes limited, and thus it is suggested to use the present one to the greatest advantage possible while you have it. Honor it and care for it. It is intended that a radiant being express love and caring for all life through it by thoughts, words, and deeds. Align the overall individual intention with that framework and positive results happen. Chapter 51. Though often a topic of discussion, the number of humans that this planet can provide for comfortably within its ecosystem is not the real determining factor in the overall health of the planet. The deciding capability is determined by how the resources are shared and for what intent these are used by the inhabitants. If the intent is for the highest and best good of all the inhabitants and these are shared in ways that provide for an abundant life experience for all, then the carrying capacity of inhabitants on the planet is considerably greater. It is obvious that that does not describe the current situation. It is also patently obvious that the current situation cannot continue if the planet is to sustain itself in its present form. The current storyline can only end in disaster for both the inhabitants and the planet itself. Observation of the other planets in the solar system with no apparent life on their surfaces is the stark reality and a possible end to the continuation of the push for luxury for the privileged at the expense of the remainder of humanity and the planet's natural environment. The ability of the planet itself to absorb the escalating misuse of its resources while the majority of its inhabitants are in suffering and misery is causing a shift in the energy that constitutes what can be called its harmony quotient. In other words, the totality of the planetary awareness, which it definitely does possess, is becoming unstable or troubled. It too is aware that a progressive disharmony is being experienced in an increasing momentum that is continuously stimulated by deliberate intent. It might be said that the alarm bell has been ringing within that awareness for some time now, causing the planet to now know that it is time to begin survival maneuvers or its current mode of expression will end. Because of the awesome power of the weaponry of both the planetary inhabitants and those vying to own this planet, its total destruction is not outside the realm of possibility. This precarious plight is now known to the totality of awareness that governs the action, reaction of the planetary processes that are what is called nature. The sum total of mining, tremendous weights of water held within dams, surface and underground construction and weapons testing has caused internal pressure anomalies within the planet that are causing the various natural fracture lines to become extremely unstable. These fracture lines remain from previous pressure anomalies and as natural zippers to allow for normal shifts and changes in surface features. Add to this the contents of the mass consciousness that include pain, starvation, disease, and an enormous outcry for change and relief. This exists along with the opposite intent to compress the human awareness into a weaker and weaker embodiment. The planetary awareness takes all these factors into account and must find a way to relieve all this pressure in the only way it can, which is what is currently termed Earth changes. These amount to changes in weather, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes. Each are in truth messages from the planet asking for the stress to be reduced by removing the causes of the stress. Unless this happens, these messages will become more and more urgent, that is more and more powerful. Unfortunately, many of the humans present within areas receiving the messages are caught up in the phenomena and the aftermath of the messages. The planetary choices are made in the areas where the greatest weakness is found in the Earth's surface areas. Often phenomena return to the same areas because these still contain the weakest points. A shift of great enough proportion has not taken place for there to be a weaker point elsewhere on the planetary surface. Other factors enter into the greater picture. The focus of consciousness with regard to concern for the planet and its inhabitants helps to balance that area and relieve the planetary stress. It is a form of protection for that area. In this way, often the timetable of factual predictions of future happenings is slowed or prevented. The mass consciousness of humanity is a powerful component of the planetary whole. That is the reason that such an intense effort has been made to instill involuntary endorsement of the plan for continued outside ownership by the majority of human inhabitants. Deliberate misinformation and mind control from multiple sources have controlled the basis of human experience for generations in preparation for the favorable shift in multiple cosmic cycles that is happening now and in the near future. With the unsuspecting consent of a large segment of the mass consciousness, it can be said that Earth's citizens do not want a change and are cooperating with the outside influences. This is an effort to prevent divine intervention. Humanity on the one hand is asking for help and an end to the wars designed to keep them quarreling among themselves and unaware of the influence being exerted on their thought processes. The human race is being divided so that it can be conquered with the least effort. It is appropriate to note here again that there is just one human race, regardless of its diversity of appearance. All experience the life force identically. Only the outside appearances are different. These differences have been exploited along with cultural and religious variations to promote separation. All bodily, cultural, and religious differences are responsibilities to learn of human unity within diversity. There is no advancement to higher dimensions until that truth is experienced into wisdom. Each has experienced within the different cultures to experience this reality into wisdom. It is important to the goals of the controllers that you forget those experiences and focus on the differences rather than the similarities. The similarities far outnumber the differences. It is to be noted that many of those experiencing in the higher dimensional realms are far different in appearance than those the human race sees within itself. Your space movies are quite accurate in imagining possible variations of species. Think about how that might be dealt with in the future, if it is possible to come together as a single human race, celebrate and maintain the diversity within it and create a new experience. The end.